Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur with your host, Steve Kidd, third-generation minister and 30-year business coach. Listen in as amazing, world-changing authors, speakers, and coaches share their struggles and victories. And hear from best-selling authors' insight into how you too can live your life as a thriving entrepreneur.
This is Steve. Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur. Today we want to talk about changes to help you not only just survive, but thrive in all that you do in your life and in your business. I'm so glad to have you here with us. We have got such an amazing group of guests today. They're going to help you move from where you are to where you're going. And so far beyond that, they're going to do so many cool and amazing things with you and for you today as you look at how to survive and be really powerful in all the things you're doing in business, how to rebrand, how to regroup, how to change up the things you're doing, and then move to survival. Change is good. Redevelopment, changing systems, changing platforms, looking and learning and developing and growing are all things that are really actually very, very good for our business. And today we want to take a look at every single one of those that can help you find the changes that will help you survive and thrive on your quest to being a thriving entrepreneur. We have 4 great, amazing guests here for you today, and we're going to run with no commercials again because we want to give you some really great, juicy content. So with that said, let's jump into our first guest. Join me in welcoming John Conifay. Hey, John, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. It's a beautiful day in Seattle. Actually not raining, so can't really complain.
All right, I love it. So first off, tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
John Conifay, CEO and co-founder of Integrate. We're building program management software for the world's most ambitious machines. I've spent the past decade in the space industry, specifically working for 3 space unicorns or companies valued at over $1 billion, as well as an consulting company. And prior to that, I was with Students for the Exploration and Development of Space, and then served in the U.S. Air Force Communication Navigation Mission Systems on AWACS. Big fan of sci-fi, of course, but art, food, you name it.
I love that. So talk to us about some of the cool new things that are happening, programming wise, that are going to impact our lives.
Yeah. So I saw this really spectacular quote from the CEO of Spire recently, speaking about how cool it is to have worked in and work in an industry. We're largely space focused right now, but we're built for robotics and medical devices and all types of complex hardware. But how cool it is to work closely with an industry such as space that touches just about every single thing you can imagine in our daily lives without people really knowing about it. So whether it is advanced synthetic aperture radar imagery from the war in Ukraine to GPS, enabling people meeting their future partners or potentially lifelong partners on dating apps, and many such things in between. I just really love working in such an enabling industry, or where our focus is right now. And things coming down the pipe. Starlink exists right now, but I'm really excited to see Amazon Kuiper come on board, more Astronos satellites going up for global telecommunications, and what that's going to do for closing the digital divide, as well as, I think the number one indicator of economically poor countries is geographic isolation, and how closing that digital divide will lift lift people up.
So, what can we do in the countries that are a little bit behind us and also don't really have the internet technology that we take so for granted that, it's sitting on all of our desks right now?
Yeah, I think there's a lot going on right now specifically for that. We had, a few false starts, including in the Seattle area for global telecommunication constellations or large clusters of satellites that enable ground telecommunications in remote areas. And now we're actually seeing that dream come true with systems such as Starlink, Rivada Networks, uh, Amazon Kuiper, and the ability to, a lot of people think, well, if you don't have, 30 millisecond latency, 100 meg per second to every individual, what difference does it make? But when you go to some of these really remote areas that just do not have internet whatsoever, I think the statistic is something like 4 billion people are not actually connected to the internet. Even something like the pocket-sized terminal that Amazon Kuiper is coming out with that enables a cafe to have Wi-Fi or access is life-changing for a lot of these communities. I think Kuiper actually put out an advertisement where they gave access to a local community in Clay Elum here in Washington State, and how game-changing that will be. So a lot of these use cases, it doesn't have to be this, perfect. Every single person has an iPhone in their hand at all times with perfect latency and 100 meg download and upload. It can be really enabling at scale with these smaller solutions, even if, we look at a Starlink terminal and say, okay, however much it is a month plus the initial startup charge for one person is how we consider it, and not as accessible as we'd like or think it to be. It's really game changing for a lot of other people.
Well, I love that. So, for the average business person, when they're looking at how some of this stuff's going to impact their world, what are some of the things that it's going to mean to day-to-day businesses?
Specifically, connectivity or
Yeah, the proliferation of, there being more people that have more access and it's easier to get to and all of those kind of things.
yeah, a lot of the modern applications for running businesses or payments or banking, dating, are run are moving specifically to SaaS platforms. I know that sounds like, yeah, thanks for telling us what happened 20 years ago, but it's not necessarily true that all applications are run on-prem for heavy engineering or heavy production optimization, or things that we do at Integrate, which is program management and the ability to communicate with external and internal stakeholders. All of these and the vast majority of modern applications for optimizing these processes are cloud based. So it might not necessarily be a somebody sitting at a cafe with one terminal servicing 50 people, but one business like in a fishing village or one business building bicycles for their local community will actually have the ability to get access to these optimized processes and applications that could really change the way they build and optimize distribution for a lot of their services or products. There are a lot of statistics out there in educating, particularly female populations in these remote areas and the incredible games that we could go into for hours and hours and hours, and a lot of stuff that we probably um, would talk about over a coffee or a beer instead. But those are some of the big things that I'm thinking about.
I love that. And specifically, with regards to you, what kind of stuff are you doing that, you can offer to people that you could help them out?
Yeah. So Integrate specifically is building program and project management software that sort of breaks down the fourth wall of enterprise software. Usually, the majority of software built for coordinating teams, large and small, is built for building software, which is intrinsically an insular. It doesn't require so many external dependencies or stakeholders as hardware does. So with Integrate, we wanted to start where most software stops, which is the ability to interact with external stakeholders such as subcontractors, vendors, program managers within the government, or customers. Yeah, we want to knock down that wall and allow you to seamlessly collaborate with the greater ecosystem in a way that's never been offered before.
And if a person wants to work with you, how can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, we have a fairly polarizing website, which we're very, very excited about, of course. But if you go to integrate.co, you can check it out and try out a demo or sign up for a demo, or tell us what you think of the website, whether you're of the 50% that absolutely love it and wish more looked like it, or of the 50% that wish that it were more straightforward. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely love that. So, just before I let you go, just give us a minute or so here, letting the average person who isn't loves technology like you and I both do, know that this is something that, regardless of their level, you can help them with.
Yeah, absolutely. We started from the beginning. One of our co-founders has worked in design, product, and brand his entire life, and one of the biggest challenges that we see with so much program management and project management software out there is that it's not exactly inviting. You get your blue and gray screens that you sort of dread to go in and change everything. And we really wanted to make it as easy to onboard and easy to use from first contact and first login as possible. So if you're organizing large teams to build complex hardware, we're here for that, and reach out, please.
Well, John, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I love the cool things that are happening in software these days, whether you're talking about some of the developments in AI or even just the cool systems and programming that's still coming out that's helping us advance and look at things in new and better ways. It's a great way to change and make things even better and to survive and thrive in all that we do in our business. I hope you got some good information out of that. We're going to jump right in to our next guest here on Thriving Entrepreneur. Here we go. Join me in welcoming Rajeev Kapoor. Hey, Rajeev, how are you doing today?
Good, Steve. How are you this morning?
I am doing really great, thanks. So first off, tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Steve, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. I'm a three-time CEO. Currently run a pretty successful B2B media and marketing company. I'm a two-time best-selling author with my recent book called AI Made Simple, which has been the best-selling AI for beginners book on Amazon for the last 6 months. I've written some fun movie screenplays in my spare time. Father, 2 kids, married, an amazing dog named Chewy, and live in beautiful Southern California.
Oh, I love that so much. So talk to us about AI. I mean, there's so many cool things going on with it, but what is the part of it that you like the most?
Look, I think the thing about AI that gets really exciting and is also probably the thing that probably scares people the most is that it democratizes everything, right? It levels the playing field for everybody. So it doesn't matter if you're in Africa, India, China, wherever you are. You could be in, you could be someone who maybe is not so well off living in in LA and you have access to your smartphone and you can download ChatGPT on your phone, and all of a sudden you can think about how you can use AI to your advantage. So I think it can democratize everything. So that's really exciting, right? So the good news is that everybody's going to have access to AI. The bad news is that everybody's going to have access to AI. So, I think, so there's that. And then, I think that this is the greatest invention since electricity. And, I think it's probably the most significant technological shift since internet browser in the mid 90s. And it's going to be exciting to see where things go. And I don't even think we've scratched the surface. If this is crawl, walk, run of where we are, the baby is still in the crib on its back, wiggling its feet and its legs in terms of where we are in this process. So still a ways to go. And it's going to be really interesting to see what new companies come from this and what new solutions and what new opportunities come out of this over the next few years. I'm excited to see it.
It's so interesting because whenever the discussion of AI comes up, it's so polarizing, and it's like there's no middle ground right now. There's the people that love it and there's the people that hate it. I don't think I've really met anybody that's kind of just like all right with it. You know what I mean? So let's talk to the people who always immediately, as soon as we say AI, start talking about the movie Terminator. How realistic really is it that computers are going to become so self-aware that they're going to take over and kill us all?
Well, I think they are going to become self-aware at some point, whether that's by 2030, depending on who you talk to, or maybe a little bit later, or it could be a little bit earlier. They are going to be somewhat self-aware, right? So this idea of this artificial general intelligence is going to be there. And so you're going to see some, for those of you who are, and I'm sure you may be as well, right? For those of you who are thinking about a world where everybody has a Tony Stark, Jarvis AI living in their home or on their phone or in their life, we're probably not too far away from it when you think about the opportunity of what it could bring, right? And so I think there's something like that's probably on the horizon, and I think that you're going to see a lot of advancement. There's a lot of use cases for AI potentially, where in the health side and longevity and a lot of other places. And so I think it's going to democratize, as I said earlier, it's going to democratize everything that we do. It's going to level the playing field for everybody. Now, for those of, the people, who are, excited about the future, that's what they get excited about. People who are fearful of the future, I can tell you that, people felt the same way when the first internet browser came out. I mean, I was at Dell when the first internet browser came out. I was working there, and I was on the team that helped initially build the first Dell.com team. And I was on the business side of it, providing feedback. And I can tell you, people never thought we would sell a dime on the first browser, right? And people felt the same way about buying a book from Amazon when it first came out, right? And so, or watching a movie on Netflix or whatever the case might be. And now these things are ubiquitous, and you look at so many new opportunities and jobs are created. And I can argue that it's made life a lot easier for people, and it's made things a lot more accessible. So I think the jury is still out in terms of how this is going to go, but in terms of killer robots coming for us, no, I don't see that. I don't see that happening. And I joke whenever I do my AI demos, or I do my AI trainings or my AI discussions, I joke around with people and I say, well, if you're in ChatGPT, I always say please and thank you, because just from that small percentage chance the killer robots come for us, that they're going to remember you were nice to them.
Yeah. Or maybe we can just teach them that manners are still important in the world, but either way.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's definitely going to be humanoid focused robots, right? I was listening to 60 Minutes was talking, about in China that they're going to have by the turn of the decade, right? That they're going to have, hundreds of millions of humanoid robots, Elon Musk Optimus robots coming, right? So, I mean, there's going to be challenges. Sure. This is not, there might be one or two or a small handful that go off the rails, but I don't see Skynet coming down for us anytime soon.
I love that. And I know one of the main things you do is you help people with their brand, especially with their company culture regarding their brand. Do you then bring some elements of AI into the culture and the branding of the company, or is that just two completely separate things that you do?
I mean, look, you're starting to see some blend, right? But it's still kind of early to understand the footing and how AI could help in that world. I mean, it's really more around trying to find the right use case for a particular brand or for an organization in terms of how to use AI. as opposed to as opposed to using their brand fully and to embrace AI. The thing that worries me about a branding perspective with AI is AI whitewashing. So if you remember back in the dot-com boom and the dot-com bubble burst right around that time, everybody was all of a sudden changing their name to .com, right? So so there was some .com whitewashing going on, and so there's AI whitewashing going on here. And so people have to be careful there, and because at some point, there will be a little bit of a bubble, and things could burst at some point. But and that's probably not going to be bad for the industry, because some of that probably needs to happen to shake out some of the bad actors and some of these people who are just making stuff up and just adding AI, even though they're really not doing AI, but they're just doing it because they feel like they might be able to increase the value of their business and on a short-term basis. So we'll see what goes from a branding perspective. In terms of how to use AI in your actual physical brand, like how to use it. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of opportunities with tools like Canva, you name it, where you're going to be able to really think about how to really use how to use AI for brand marketing.
I love that so much. So let's talk a little bit about rebuilding your brand to really enhance the culture of your company. What are the parts of your brand that really re-emphasize or emphasize to begin with the culture that you really want to have in your company?
Look, the interesting thing here for me is that these types of things for me are very top down. To me, it's all got to be bought in at the top, because what happens typically, Stephen, in an organization, as you know, there's a lot of loyalty. Employees have a lot of loyalty to an employer, right? And sometimes it's hard for the employer to have the same level of loyalty back down to the employee. So this has to be really top down driven in terms of what that CEO, what the executive management team, what the board really feels, the core values of what that brand represents, and how you build that culture, for the employees in the organization. So, for example, here at my company, 1105. We took a very, during COVID, we got hit pretty hard. Over half my business was face-to-face events. And you can imagine overnight, a snap of a finger, all those events disappeared, right? And so we couldn't do that. So we went from a very, very high profit, we went from a very, very profitable business to a fairly low profitable business literally overnight. And that really impacted the business. And I had to find ways to really take care of my employees and my customer base and and those around me. And so we really shifted everything to this idea of what it means. We really focused our culture on what it really meant to be great in an organization, and came up with an acronym. And that acronym is basically, we're going to focus on gratitude, we're going to be resilient, we're going to have a lot of empathy, we're going to hold each other accountable, and be really transparent in the organization. And those 5 letters, you take the first 5 letters of those 5 words, and it spells the word great. And I use that to be the basis of my first book, which is called Chase Greatness. And so that's really the idea of building a culture. And ultimately, to me, that led down to this journey of finding this idea of enlightened leadership. And what does that mean? And how do CEOs of the future need to change, and how do leadership in teams in the future have to change? And to me, it's this idea of enlightened leadership, and it needs to be at the forefront of everything we do going forward, because we're in for a lot of disruption from an AI perspective, as we just talked about, from a political disruption perspective. You have pretty divided workforces and people in the country and in the world. And then you have a huge demographic change happening, right? In the next 12 to 24 months, Gen Z and millennial are going to be the majority of the workforce, and they require a different type of leadership. And to me, it's the concept of enlightened leadership is what really is going to drive the culture forward. As a matter of fact, our culture here at 1105 has been so strong. Last year we saw no attrition, no voluntary attrition in the business.
That's amazing. Wow, that's cool. So, when we begin looking at the culture of our companies, and we begin looking at the needs of our company, what happens when we find out that what the company really needs is some new blood?
Look, I think, to me, new blood's important, right? So, we do bring in new blood, from time to time as well. And, we're very transparent with that. And, we do manage people up. And if we need to manage people out, we'll manage them out. So that's fine. And that happens. And we've done that. And so we've also changed direction. change course. And sometimes we shut down underperforming business units or underperforming product lines or whatever the case might be. And so we've done those kinds of things. And so bringing in new blood is definitely important because you want those new ideas. You want that diversity of thought coming in, because one of the worst things you can be as a leader is be in a room and you're the smartest person in the room. If you're the smartest person in the room, it's time to change the room. You need that diversity of thought. You need people in that room who are going to push back, who are going to provide different experiences. And so you need that. And so we invite that, we're not proactively out looking to get rid of people just to bring in new blood. If it happens naturally, great. If there's an opportunity to hire somebody and bring somebody new on board, we'll go do that. And hopefully they come with new ideas that help us grow.
Once the people at the top really have determined and have created, probably in writing, in fact, even a culture document that they can really then disseminate down across to everybody, how do you suggest giving that? I mean, do we just tell people? Do we write a book and give it to them? This is going to be the culture of our company. What do you suggest is the best way to get the culture from top to bottom?
Yeah, that's a good question. And quite frankly, I don't know if I've ever seen that work, to be honest with you. I think what happens a lot of times is that people in larger organizations, they do these big culture documents and they pass them out. And there's a lot of rah-rah, and that rah-rah lasts for maybe 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, or 3 months. But then over time, other things take priority. And, the people feel like, all right, we kind of already told people what we think our culture is. And they might send out the occasional email reminder or put posters up on a wall in people's offices. But now with people working from home, that might be a little bit difficult. But to me, what I find always is the case here, which is you've got to really, the way you're going to live your culture and live your values is by being in front of people and making it, and really making it part of the executive team's, day-to-day life, right? So for example, perhaps maybe having a cultural score as part of their bonus calculation might be something to think about. Making sure you have regular recognition events at the minimum on a quarterly basis, followed by town halls, where you're reviewing your core values in your business on a regular basis, where you're recognizing people, where you're rewarding people, and you're not just rewarding people from boss to employee. There's also peer-to-peer recognition happening as well in the organization. So it's those kinds of things that need to happen. And to me, I fear the concept of, we're going to make a book and hand it out to people, or create an app or send an email. Because I think at that point, people feel like, okay, they've checked the box and it's done, they can move on. To me, it's got to be a real regular daily practice almost.
So I'm sure that this is the kind of stuff that you help companies with all the time. Talk to us about the kind of people that you like to work with and how you can help them.
Yeah, look, I mean, we over here, we really focus on doing everything we can to help people grow their company, right? So our core competency at 1105 is, if you look at our tagline, is your growth is our business. And that, that's just not from a B2B marketing and media perspective. It's also from an overall, how can we help your organization be successful perspective. I come in and I work with management teams on a regular basis, and I have quite a few, and I work with quite a few management teams, and where we come in and we'll do those audits, we'll do those employee audits, we'll have those discussions, we'll have those one-on-ones, we'll look at strategy, we'll look at roadmaps, we'll look at where are they being a pioneer, where are they being a migrator, and maybe where they're being a settler. We'll look at all those different kinds of areas, and we'll find out where we are with the team, and we'll evaluate the people on the team, and we'll come back and we'll make our recommendations on what we think, how people can move forward. And so I think of it more as an advisory coaching position or opportunity as opposed to anything else. But that's really kind of what we focus on, and it does well.
So for the people who would like to work with you, how can they get in contact with you? How can they work with you?
So the best way is email me. My email address would be request Rajeev. That's request R-A-J like John, E like Edward, V as in Victor, @gmail.com. And I'm more than happy to get spend some time with them and see how perhaps maybe whether it's me or the broader team can help them and support them. And we're happy to be there to support them.
I love that. Rajeev, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
You bet. Thanks, buddy. Have a great one.
How much of your company's brand is embedded in your culture? How well do people really know the culture? I encourage every single one of you as business leaders, CEOs, any of those kind of people, you absolutely need, and yes, I am shamelessly plugging our company, but you absolutely need to have your story as a book. That should be the culture document that your company's reading. You need to rebuild the brand of your company based on the culture that you want the company to have, and then really drive that home. Your culture is so important, and your brand will never be as big as it could be unless or until you absolutely really get that brand out there in the form of having a cohesive culture that people are bought into and want to be a part of. That is a perfect change to help you survive and thrive. With that said, let's go right to our next guest here on Thriving Entrepreneur. Join me in welcoming Alex Conception. Hi, Alex, how you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me on, Steve.
Thanks for being here with us. First off, tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Yeah, my name's Alexander. I live in Austin, Texas, and currently I'm showing up in the world as a first-time author, and I'm publishing a book about risk and survival for small entrepreneurs, which comes out April 8th. So I show up in a lot of other ways, dinner parties, just being a good friend, hanging out with people I like. But in this context, that's the most relevant way, I would say.
Perfect. Tell us a little bit about your book. What is it about? Who's it for?
So for the small rebel entrepreneur, often solopreneurs, captains of small ships, people who run their own small businesses, not the kind of person who's trying to go crazy with like venture financing or trying to hyperscale into a publicly trading company, none of that. But the kind of person I'm writing to has their own small little ship, and that ship gives them freedom and sovereignty to live life on their own terms, and their business surviving is usually means them surviving in terms of the freedom and the stability and the sovereignty that they've created.
So, can you do a favor for me and define a couple of those terms, especially you use the word sovereignty.
Mhm.
How do you mean that in regards to what you're doing?
So there's financial sovereignty, which is I own my source of income through my business, which gives me sovereignty over how I live my life. So because I control my time, I can wake up when I want, work on what I want, spend time with the people I want to spend time with, and I get to be more of a captain of my own reality rather than an employee who has to mold myself to someone else's reality.
Perfect. I love it. So, what is your favorite part of the book? Of all the things you talk about in the book, what's the piece that you really enjoyed the most?
Towards the end, the book went to a surprising place, even for me, because the further you go down to the book, it becomes less and less about business and more about you, the entrepreneur who owns the business. And the more I dug into you as the biggest risk and opportunity to your own business, what I realized the most important risk for small entrepreneurs, or I would say any entrepreneur, is their relationship to their businesses. And The most important risk being that you wind up in a relationship with your business that you don't want. And I think that frame of you being in a relationship with your business is radical because it's not so much about how big your business is or the status your business gets you, but it's more about, do you like your business or do you not like your business? Is your business a real and honest reflection of who you are? Does your business give you the life that you want or does it not? And I think a lot of people are waiting for permission to look at themselves and their businesses and realize that maybe I don't like my business. Maybe this relationship with my business should end. Maybe for me, the entrepreneur, the creator, the problem solver, maybe for me to survive and thrive, my business has to go. So that's my favorite part of the book, and it's the most interesting to me. And yeah.
I love that because very few people talk about, what if this isn't the end? What if this isn't even the business you should be in? What should a person do if they get to the place where they really discover, hey, you know what, this really kind of isn't what I should be or want to be doing with my life?
I think there's a lot of frames within the world of relationship help that are useful. The first being to define the relationship you want consciously, because what a lot of people have in relationships, and humans are human relationships, but also relationships with their businesses, are what's called situationships, which are these undefined relationships that take on forms that no one really wants. And I think the most important decision for an entrepreneur to make is to consciously decide what the relationship to their business is and is not going to be. And once you realize, I want this relationship, not that relationship, then what can I do to improve my relationship to the business? And maybe that means offloading more. Maybe that means outsourcing more, automating more tasks. Maybe it means shrinking the business, firing more clients, exiting your relationships with certain business partners so you can create the business relationship that you want. And even if that means ending the business or selling the business, that's okay.
So a lot of times when we come to these more difficult discussions like this, the easy thing for a person to do is just put it off. You know what I mean? What
Yeah.
happens if when we come face to face with, our business needs whatever kind of change? What happens when we just ignore it and hope that it goes away?
If you don't confront risk and darkness confronts you. And if you wait for it to confront you, it's going to be worse because the cost of not doing it is too high. It's like the cost of being in the wrong romantic relationship for way longer than you should. The longer you put off confronting the darkness and the difficult conversations, the more it's going to fester and get worse, and the harder it will be to resolve later on. And this goes for everything in business. Are you going to confront the darkness? Are you going to confront your delusions? Are you going to confront your ego? Or are you going to wait for reality to do it for you? So it's always best to look at risk and the things you don't want to confront now rather than later.
I love that. So sometimes we need help with stuff like this. And that's where someone like you comes in. Do you have the book, of course. Do you have other programs on top of the book that you help people be able to confront these kind of things and come up with solutions?
Not yet. I've never seen anyone kind of doing like any consulting or coaching for the kind of things I'm writing about. What I am doing is publishing the book in a little bit more than a week, which is wild to think about. But I am inviting entrepreneurs who do listen to this, read the book, and want to help and want help going deeper into these more difficult questions to reach out to me. My website, survivalfirstbook.com. And I would love to meet with people that are going through these problems with their businesses and are looking for not so much to tell them what to do, but a guide to help them go where they need to go.
That's amazing. Give us that URL again.
Yeah, survivalfirstbook.com.
And the name of your book is Survival First.
Yeah, it's Survival First, the Rebel Entrepreneur's Guide to Risk, Riches, and Immortality.
It'll be available on Amazon beginning April the 8th, you said?
Yep, on paperback, hardcover, Kindle, audio. If you like my voice and want to hear me speak for 9 hours, then that's going to be an option.
All right. Well, before I let you go, give us some words of encouragement about not just surviving, but thriving as a business person.
Ah, probably the most profound lesson I had to learn was surrender and accept that if I do what I know I need to do, if I follow that voice and the energy inside of me and trust that that energy and voice has my best interest in mind and is going to take me to where I need to go. And I don't know where that specifically is, but I've learned to trust that listening to myself and showing up in the world the way I need to is going to take me to where I need to go.
I love that. And once again, the book is called Survival First, The Rebel Entrepreneur's Guide to Risk, Riches, and Immortality. Alex, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
I love that. Survival first. First, we need to survive so that we can then thrive. A lot of times we have given so much, we do give so much to our companies that we kill ourselves off literally and sometimes figuratively. And really, a lot of times, literally. I know I came back to that because it really just struck me how much we can tend to kill ourselves off rather than putting our own survival and doing the things that are going to make our company good and those kind of things, putting that first and then growing everything else. What a great change that we can make to help you survive and thrive and live as a thriving entrepreneur. With that said, let's go right into our next guest here on Thriving Entrepreneur. Join me in welcoming Allison Zorick. Hey, Allison, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for being here with us. First off, tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm born and raised in Seattle, Washington State. Believe it or not, I'm still here 40 some years later, and live here with my husband and my 3 kids, and been in franchising now for about 15 years and loving the ride so far.
Seattle is such a diverse place. Anybody that's ever lived in or near there knows that, you can start down in Olympia and drive up to Vancouver, BC, and pretty much experience just about any culture you want to in the entire world. And just that drive without, going down to Centralia or any of those places.
You're so right. You're right. It is one of the most beautiful places, I swear, in the country, amongst unpopular belief. And we do get our fair share of rain, but I tell you, from June to October, there is no place like it. We truly have 4 seasons, but it's beautiful here. The mountain, the water, you name it. We've got all the culture.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk to us about franchising. What kind of things do you really love doing in franchising?
Oh, there's so many of them. I love my current role. I joined Frandevco about a year and a half ago, and we work with a variety of different brands from all different ranges of growth. Some of these are micro emerging brands. Some of them have a good number of locations up and running and really just want to take their brand across the country. And that's my passion. I love working with brands that are all in all seasons of their growth, getting them to a place where we truly can support them from not only a sales but also an operational and marketing standpoint. And our team's set up to do that now. We've been in the industry as one of the best franchise development organizations there are for about 4 years now, and are really working with some great brands, and our team that supports them is just continuing to grow as well. So that's been the fun part, is working with all of these amazing brands.
Oh, I totally love that. So you guys' forte is more working with a company that either wants to become a franchise or already is, and then helping them develop that so that they're actually a stable and solid franchise. Is that correct-ish?
It is. That's definitely correct. We've got our brands that are kind of more in an incubator stage, that are really just trying to get their feet under them and understand what it would take to actually bring their brand to the franchising market. And then we've got brands that, have 100 and some locations already open and operating, and really just don't have the internal structure to be able to take that growth much farther. So they look to partner with us and make sure that we can not only offer the sales arm, but also the marketing arm to support them, so they really can focus on getting those franchisees up and operating and generating royalties, which is where we all win.
Are there any kind of companies that really aren't right for franchising?
That's a great question. I do think there are companies out there that aren't right for franchising, and it could be for a variety of reasons, but usually is due to either lack of capital or lack of infrastructure. And it doesn't mean that they can't overcome those obstacles, but till they're in a place where they can invest the capital that it really takes to get a brand off its feet and running, then there's no reason to actually go into franchising. We talk to a lot of brands that are really in that stage, and we're not a franchise development organization that's just going to take their money to take their money. We want to make sure that if we partner with them, they're in a position to actually be successful to grow.
Okay, well, let's look at it from the other direction then. What kind of companies are just the best kind of companies that you just wish every day another one of those would come through the door so you could work with them?
The million-dollar question. There's different verticals that I love. We see a lot of health and wellness right now. That's one of the blessings that's come out of COVID. We see a lot of pet brands come out. People love to spend money on themselves and pets, and that hasn't seemed to change. So those are two verticals that are really growing. Another vertical that I love is the child education. That's coming out strong, and that we're seeing a lot of brands out there. And in fact, brick and mortar is really coming back too. I think over COVID we got so saturated with home service brands that people were scared to actually bring their brick and mortar brand to the market, and we're seeing a good change in that, and the market's correcting itself. In fact, so much so that commercial real estate is getting really hard to find. So I like seeing that we're getting a good diversity back to where we were pre-COVID days.
Oh, I love to hear that. I mean, you hear so many negative things. It's good to hear that, that section of the industry is coming back. That's cool.
Yes.
So what is the one thing that you really wish people had in place before they came to you and just said, okay, Allison, now make me the perfect franchise organization?
Oh, just the one thing I really wish. Really, it's probably the team, the founder. We're in a position today where we actually get to choose who we want to partner with, and we're more of a family. And I say that with all honesty. We 4 years ago probably would have partnered with anyone and anyone that came to Frandevco wanting to grow their brand. And today we are pretty much the opposite. We work with people we like first, and honestly, the brand second. And that's because this is a partnership, it's a marriage, and we want to make sure that we're working towards the same goal and have a good communication path and infrastructure to make sure that that happens.
Oh, that's great. What, and we're asking a little bit generic here, but you had kind of a suggestion of this in your booking. What are some of the significant things that we're seeing that female entrepreneurs are bringing to the area of franchising that maybe hasn't existed before?
That's a great question. Yeah, it's definitely shifted. When I first stepped into the industry about 14 years ago, it was a very much male dominated industry. In fact, and this is good timing because I just had another network actually ask me to write an article really based around this. I've definitely seen a shift over the years, seen more women stepping into leadership roles and really making a considerable impact. I think even with all of the challenges that can be created for women in the workplace, the culture has evolved and women are now being recognized and respected. I think the main reason why women franchise ownership is continuing to grow year over year is really because of many facets. Women, I think, make great entrepreneurs and women owners because of their ability to multitask and be detail oriented, and they are very adaptable to change. So these women are creating business ownership opportunities that really allow them to invest in their future and create value and wealth in their lives and in their families' lives, which is exciting to see.
Oh, I love that. Well, give us some ideas of the kind of people that you love to work with. I mean, who should come to you to be able to work with your company?
Are you talking on a franchise brand standpoint?
Yes.
Franchise brands that we're looking for today, as I mentioned before, really have that strong team foundation. They have really come to us because they've heard about our culture. They know that we've been successful in the brands that we've represented and grown. So we're really looking for like-minded individuals that have not only a good concept that we truly believe can have an impact in the economy and continue to give back, but that want to partner with us for a long-term time. We don't want to just continue to flip brands over, after a year. We're in this for the long haul, and that means responsible franchising. That means taking a brand from, maybe 10 locations to 50 or maybe 100 in the first year. We don't want to ever put a brand in a position that we've outsold them so fast that they physically cannot open their locations or their franchisees can't get up and operating, and then everybody loses.
Oh, that makes total sense. Um, I, since you brought it up, what is that one of the biggest things that people do is that they just try to rush out too much and then they end up kind of burying themselves under their own quote unquote success?
Well, we've seen it happen for sure. I mean, there's some brands out there that have grown at just an exponentially fast pace. And if you don't have the infrastructure built to support that, and or it's been a really great brand that comes to market, yet they maybe only have one corporate location open, it's just hard to justify. We would rather see a brand have that stability in place so that if we do sell, let's just say 100 units a year, that without doubt they have the resources to get them up and operating, because at the end of the day, those franchisees are going to be our future validators, and without that, this industry doesn't succeed.
Oh, that's amazing. You usually don't think about it that way. When a person's looking at franchise and they're just like, and then I want everybody in the whole world to have one. I want to be like McDonald's and have there be, or like Starbucks was there for a while, where you could go out the door of Starbucks and see a Starbucks across the street.
Right, for sure. And that actually, oddly enough, was my first job out of college, was working at Starbucks corporate in Seattle and just watching the expansion fly across the world, really, because it went international really quick.
Yeah, it absolutely did. Well, so talk to us about how a person could get in contact with you and the company if they have a franchise and they'd like to have you help them develop it.
For sure. Yeah, you can definitely find us through our website at frandevco.com. My email address is my first initial, A, last name Zorich, Zorich at frandev.co. We have a great system set up in place where our first initial steps is really to send out a brand evaluation to the company, just to really assess their needs and what they're looking to do and see if even is a potential good partnership for us. And then from there, we really set up an initial call, and then we like to get on a plane and actually go see them and meet them and break bread and see if it's going to be a good fit from there. So there's about 25 of us at Frandevco, and any one of us would be there to support anybody that out.
And give us that URL again.
Our website is www.frandevco.com.
Perfect. I love it. Well, before I let you go, give us some words of encouragement. That franchising is still a up and coming kind of a thing, and definitely something that companies should look at.
Yeah, franchising is definitely not going anywhere. It's amazing. I think people that aren't in the industry don't really have the understanding that really on every corner you look is probably a franchise brand. And so I think as we continue to do responsible franchising and we continue to bring the right brands to market and support their growth, anybody that potentially has a great brand that they believe they have the infrastructure and capital to get behind will be there. So I think it's not it's the times of COVID are gone. The home service saturation is going to start to fade out a little bit, and we're going to see a lot more diversity amongst all the different verticals. So that part we're excited to see, excited to be part of the ride. One thing I did want to just correct really quick is it's frandev.co. We get that a lot through our website and through our emails. So although people like to say .com, it is www.frandev.co. And that's how you can get in touch with us the easiest way.
Perfect. I appreciate that correction too, so that we go to the right place.
You
Well,
bet.
Allison, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. Appreciate the time you gave.
I love it. I more and more am thinking about how could I franchise my company, and I know that I can't with my particular company, but I love the concept of franchising. And I know for a lot of you listening, you're thinking, I want to have a business or I want to do more with my business. And I really think that you should look more at a franchise you could buy into or how you could franchise your own business. Often the brilliance that you have in the world just can become so much more so when you expand it out and you share it and you let other people, some people are high creatives like you are, and other people need to have somebody that's kind of created the creation and then they become really great at duplicating it or even advancing it. And that is a great change that can help you survive and thrive in all that you do. Because no matter what else, I want you to remember, you are uniquely brilliant. You were created for a purpose, and the world needs you. We need you to be exactly who you are, right here, right where you are right now, doing the stuff that only you can do, making the changes in your own life and in your business to help you not just survive, but to survive and thrive in all that you do. I'm so glad that we got a chance to be together today. I appreciate you so much. I hope that you are living every day of your life as a thriving entrepreneur. And until we're together again next time, I hope life is finding you happy, safe, warm, and loved, and that you have a great week.
Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today. If you want to get your question answered, send an email to questions@wehelpyouthrive.com. We look forward to you joining us again next time.
Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I am a third-generation minister, an international best-selling author of multiple books, and I help people write, publish, and market their books to bestseller. In fact, there are literally thousands of people that have used the system that I created to be able to write, publish, and market their books, and now they're best-selling authors. And you're next. I just wanted to come on for a minute, say hi to you, tell you a little bit about me, introduce myself, and tell you I know the world is waiting on your message, and I would be so honored to be part of sharing your message with the world. Go to AskSteveKid.com and schedule a time to talk today.